Hey, it's Marthea Pitts, the MSW coach, and I want to talk about why I want to give you 3 reasons why you think the work you do isn't a big deal as a case manager. And what prompted this conversation is that I've been meeting for the last about 3 to 4 weeks with my current micro to macro career accelerator cohort participants one-on-one, helping them through, well, not helping, taking them through my proven macro resume writing intensive. What that is where I meet with them for 2 hours one-on-one, and I'm going through all of the jobs that they've had in their entire work life, and I'm teaching them job by job how to identify the experience that they have that can position them to get the macro job that they want. This is a step that comes after they have spent at least 30 to 45 days at minimum going through my proven career clarity framework, which helps them get clear around the population and issue they want their work to support, how they want their day-to-day work to look like, and strategic ways to increase their career satisfaction by infusing some of their outside passions into their work. And so at this point, I've had quite a few resume writing intensive sessions, and one of the things that I've been noticing, which I've noticed with every cohort, is that a lot of them don't understand the magnitude of what they do as a case manager. So I wanted to come on and talk to you all tonight because I know that you too may be experiencing the thing where you don't think that the work you do as a case manager is a big deal, and it is, and you probably struggle with identifying like the value in managing a caseload, seeing participants all day. But I want to give you 3 reasons why it's hard for you to identify like what's a big deal in your current experience. And largely because I'm going to be teaching next month in my 5-day micro to macro prep academy how to what I call flip your experience. I want to teach you some of my strategies and techniques around experience flipping. That's what I call it. But I wanted to give you 3 reasons why you struggle with identifying right now wherever you are in your social work career, or why you struggle with understanding that your experience is a big deal. So the first reason, I first wrote it in reverse order. I'm like, I'm gonna start with 3. I'm gonna make that 1. So I'm looking at my notes. The first reason is that you don't have clearly established goals of like how you will use the case management experience that you're getting, be it, and we can also apply this to past jobs. And what I mean by that is you don't have a clearly established goal of what will be next in your career. So what that would look like is, if you're currently working as a medical social worker, what is the goal? Is the goal to then work with a national health insurance company, where you're working to speak with state leaders and legislative members and things like that around health insurance access for all? And I'm naming that because that's a macro job that one of my coaching clients got, where she now works with a very well-known national insurance company, health insurance company, and she goes from state to state and she advocates with political leaders about health insurance access for all. And she's essentially like positioning her organization as a health insurance company that can ensure that that is done in their state. So what is the goal? That's the point of this first one, is you don't have a clearly established next step. And the reason why that is because many people don't have clarity. So the first reason why you don't think what you do currently, thank you for the hearts, why you don't feel right now that the work experience you're getting right now is a big deal, is because you don't have a clearly established next step. If you've been around long enough, maybe you're new here, I love a good real world analogy. Like, I am a realist through and through. So I love a good real world example for me to be able to contextualize what I'm learning. And so the only example I could think of off the dome is Like if you are making a recipe, right? And so the recipe calls for, like, you have all of your ingredients, but you don't know, like, okay, what do I mix in next? What do I do with this, right? You're going to be in the dark, and your recipe is not going to come out good because you don't know, like, what the next step will be. And that may not be the best example because I'm trying to come up with one off the dome, but you have to know what's next. You have to have a plan so you then can determine, like, your actions. So, for example, and I am not a baker or a cooker, but my daughter is a classically trained pastry chef. But maybe the recipe calls for, like, that your butter be room temperature. If you didn't know the procedure to put your ingredients in a bowl and you had your butter in the freezer or in the refrigerator the whole time, you're not going to be able to make the cookies right away because you didn't have the butter room temperature. It wasn't softened, so it's not going to come out right. And the same thing is with your career. Like, you have to know what the next step is to determine what you're doing present day. So for a lot of social workers, they don't think that the work they're doing is a big deal because they don't understand, they don't have a clearly established goal of what's next, like how this is going to connect to the bigger thing. The second reason why you think the work you do isn't a big deal is because you don't understand how your work supports the bigger organizational objectives. And so what I'm talking about is, like, present day, where you're currently working. Again, this could apply to past jobs. You don't understand, like, how your service delivery, how you're seeing these clients supports the bigger deliverables of your organization. One of the things that I learned when I first jumped on the scene, and I've been doing this for 5 years online, and I was doing it for years before becoming online as the MSW coach. One of the things that I know to be true is that a lot of social workers don't understand that their organizations are businesses. Yeah, it's true that you work for a nonprofit, you may work for a social service agency, but these are businesses. A lot of social workers believe that their organizations just like the leaders have bleeding hearts and they're in it to just help the people. No, they're in it because they get paid to deliver a service by whoever their funder is. And so what that means is that people don't just give out free money. There are terms and stipulations to getting funding for organizations. And so what that means is that there was some type of stipulation in the funder who funds your organization or wherever they're getting the money, that your organization is to provide case management services. So as a result of that, they then had to hire you, the case manager, to be the person responsible for the physical delivery of these case management services. So what I mean by number 2 of you don't understand how your work supports the bigger organizational goals is a lot of social workers have never laid their eyes on what the deliverables are for your funding streams from the funders of your organizations. Does it say in the deliverables that your organization is supposed to, and I'm just making this up, that they're supposed to serve 500 families annually, and they're supposed to connect them to housing, and that they're supposed to help them transition into long-term care? What does it say? A lot of social workers don't know that, right? And so these are all things that I teach my coaching clients because I am all about strategic career planning. I'm all about strategic anything in my whole entire life, but especially when it came to my career, I'm all about strategic career planning. So a lot of the reason why you don't think that your work is a big deal is because you have never laid your eyes on the deliverables of your organization, the bigger objectives of the organization. Diana says, I wish they would share it with the team. Diana, it's your responsibility to go find the information. What I teach my coaching clients is when you are sitting at your desk in between calls and you're waiting on your next participants, you are to be going through the shared drive. It says shared for a reason. You have access to it. It's your responsibility to do your due diligence to go look up this information. In my case management job, I would go and look at the reports. I would go and look at if it was public access and I had access to it, I'm looking at it. What is that? Oh wow, they got $500,000 for such and such, and they said they were going to use it for such and such. This is why they told me I now need to do this thing. Because you're correct. They're not going to come up and tell you that. And the reason this even fell on my radar is because my first case management job, I did have a leader who would bring the whole team, the whole region, into the conference room, and she would give all of us copies of the contract for that year. And we will go line by line about the deliverables. And this is where my paradigm began to shift around. Oh, okay. Like, I need to be paying attention to this stuff because I'm helping drive the achievement of these deliverables. And we will go line by line and look at the deliverables. We will look at the disallowed cost. How much does it cost my organization when I give a child care referral in error and the people didn't really qualify for it? Like, we will look at that. And so going forward in my career, this is when I started to proactively go look for the information on my own, because just like you said, organizations are not going to volunteer that to you. A lot of them actually try to hide it from you, but it's always on the shared drive. So I encourage you tomorrow, in between your downtime, go on the shared drive, go on the public website, go on the intranet site. All of that information is there. Okay. I need the why behind my work, especially from the business side of things. Exactly. And if you engage with me, you need the why. I'm the same way. Somebody said that's good leadership. She was. It was also an attempt to overwork us. Let me be fair about that. But it set the precedence. I always tell people my first case management job really trained me for everything to come in my career. Like, if I made it through that job in 5 years, I know I could do anything. That's why I'm fearless when it comes to my career. Diana says I will definitely be pulling up and through that shared drive tomorrow, because sometimes new initiatives and policies don't seem rooted in anything, but there's always a why. There's always a why. So go pull up that information and look at it. I want to master my craft as a case manager. I love that. So the third reason why you think what you do, the work that you do, isn't a big deal is because you are not tracking your key metrics. What do you mean, Marthea? So after you go and do your due diligence and look at like how your work is supporting the bigger organizational goals and objectives, you then have to start tracking from your aspect, from your point as a case manager, what are your key metrics in the achievement of these larger goals, right? And this extends beyond seeing 50 people a month. How much does your organization spend on each person? How much are you saving the organization when you are super saver social worker and you do the stuff yourself instead of issuing them a referral or getting your organization to pay for the thing? How much are you saving them every time you develop a workshop and webinar? And you know that by looking at your data each month. What are you doing? And so the reason I made that one of the reasons why you don't think it's a big deal is because one of the biggest issues that social workers have when they start working with me and we're going through the resume writing intensive is understanding how to articulate the process behind what they do in their day-to-day work. And so what I mean by that is, like, what is your secret sauce? What is the thing that you did? A lot of social workers just focus on I'm going to make up something. This ain't a real example. Manage the caseload, right? However, what is your process of managing the caseload? Are you using certain strategies and techniques? Do you have a time management system in place? Are you relying heavily on collaborations with other departments, other organizations to ensure that your people are moving from point A to point B? When it comes to that collaboration, how are you establishing these relationships with these people? How are you maintaining them? Right? Just as an example, how are you getting your people who are, I don't call them hard to serve, I call them intensive cases, but your more intensive cases, how are you helping these people get from point A to point Z when nobody else in the building could help them? There's something that you're doing. Are you establishing rapport? Are you making your case, your service plans, like person-centered? Are you assessing their strengths and weaknesses, like what they have as far as support systems? What is your secret sauce, right? And so again, this extends beyond manage the caseload of 50 people. No, what are your key metrics? How much money are you saving? How much money are you making the organization? How many people are you connecting to? How many people are you helping completely transition off of the program? You want to track those things. How much are you saving the organization every time you go and develop a workshop or a community education thing? What do you call it? What am I calling them? Community education, webinars, workshops, seminars. You want to be tracking those key metrics, because all of that at the end of the day is value for your potential future employer, right? But more than that, deeper than that, which really taps into the whole confidence piece, is that it helps you see the magnitude of what you're doing. See, again, a lot of people don't think that the work they're doing is a big deal because they're not tracking all that they're doing in a month. Like, they only track it as the bigger thing of managing 50 people. But what are you doing for each individual person to serve them? I'm finding it hard to track my personal metrics in the hospital setting. I was able to really track when I worked in nursing homes because it was a 2-person department versus 30 plus. So some of the metrics, and I never worked in medical social work, but I've worked with a lot of medical social workers inside of the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator. Some of your metrics should be like, how many staffing meetings are you attending a week? How many cases are you helping other people staff? How many people are you helping effectively transition out of the hospital? How many people are you getting subsidized prescriptions for through the prescription companies? How many people, because I know y'all are big about bed count and HEDIS measures, and the people can only be there for a certain number of days, and then the hospital want them out. How fast are you moving people through your system? Because that's important in the medical social work. How fast are the people getting out on a timely basis? When it comes to like your more intense cases, the people who don't have anywhere to go, on average, how fast can you get them out? Like your colleagues, it may take them a week longer. For your people who maybe are houseless or have all of these other issues, but for you, you get them into permanent housing within 1 day. How much is that saving your organization? Because now these people are not taking up a bed. And again, medical social work, y'all got a lot going over there, because again, it's all a business, and the hospitals don't want the people there taking up beds. So if your hospital standard is they have 5 days and you're getting the people out in 5 days and they're not staying there 10 days, how much is that saving your organization? Because you know on the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th day, that's costing your organization money. How much does it cost your organization each day to keep a person over the standard 5? That's money you're saving them. Person said, we do. Diana says, we do. Exactly. Y'all got to deal with bed counts and getting the people in and out. Those are things you need to track because you're saving the organization money. But also on the other end, you want to make it client focused. You're saving your people money. Every time you call the prescription pharmaceutical company and get the subsidized prescription, you're saving your people money. You're not just saving them money for the prescription, you're saving them money from future coming back into the hospital system. You're saving the hospital money because you're connecting them with long-term outpatient care, which will or even health insurance. A lot of y'all deal with health insurance. So you're saving the people from coming back in and using the ER as their primary care physician. How much on average does it cost an emergency room visit? How much is that? How much does that cost the hospital for someone who's uninsured? But because you connected someone with the health insurance, you're reducing the likelihood of them re-entering. But again, the metrics largely depend on what I shared in one. You have to know where your next thing is going to be as far as your career. So then you know what key metrics you need to track, right? Because for me, if I was in the medical social worker, if I was a medical social worker, I wouldn't be concerned about like patient focused metrics. My metrics will be on like, because I'm all about workforce development, helping people in the workforce and things like that. I would be tracking metrics around like how many times I train staff internally, even though I'm not in the training department. How many new hires did I have to let shadow me? How long did they retain and stay in that position? Did they stay longer than 2 years due to the fact that they were shadowing me and I'm providing them with mentorship and things like that? So my metrics will be different from your metrics because my career goal is different than yours. But you have to know one in order to know 2 and 3. So this is why you don't think that your work is a big deal, is because you're not doing these 3 things. Diane says, makes sense. I think I missed the first point. Yes, the first point is you got to know what your next step is. What is your next step in your goal? So then you can effectively identify the metrics that you need to be tracking each month. That's so good. Writing this down. Write it down. Replay it back. Share it with a friend. So I really wanted to share those 3 things because it is critical. The work that you all do is very, very important. However, you don't think that it's a big deal because you're not clear on these 3 things. And so I want you to, Diana already gave me her thing in writing. She said when she get to work tomorrow, she's going to be all up and through the share drive. And I'm serious. Like, if it is open and I got access, I'm clicking it open and I'm reading. And that's where you will learn about a lot of the stuff that you never understood why you were doing it. It's all right there. Go read it, right? And actually you will learn a lot of information that will be pivotal for you in your current job and in your future job. And like Diana said, like, I need to know the why behind my work. I'm the same way. So this is why I always ask these questions. And so I wanted to talk about that because that is something that I see a lot. And so when you don't understand the magnitude of what you're doing, what makes it a big deal, it impacts your ability to effectively identify like what experience you have that's valuable to the job that you want. One, but bigger than that, it also impacts your confidence, your belief in your ability to do something bigger than just a case management job. Right? Because if you follow my page, that means you have dreams and desires of doing something else over and beyond case management. And so in order to like make certain that your confidence is high and where it needs to be, you need to be doing these things now in your current job. Don't wait. A lot of people try to wait until they're ready to start applying. No, you start right now where you are because it helps you. It's all stackable learning, right? So it helps you start tracking these metrics that you can then use on your resume. It helps you to start building your confidence so that you can have what you need to go after the jobs that you want. That's why I have created the 5-day Micro to Macro Prep Academy to teach you all exactly what you need to be doing in your current case management job to prepare you for the macro job you want when you're ready to make the move, right? Diane says, I think that's the key. I know it was meant for me to click on this live because that's been my main thought for the last few months, figuring out my next move. Yes, you got to have clarity. You got to have clarity. I got tons of live videos about it. This is extremely helpful. I'm glad you found it helpful. It was on my heart to come and talk about the thing. So that's why I'm having the Micro to Macro Prep Academy next month. And the ticket is only $29. And it's 5 days. It's a 5-day webinar series that I've curated around how to teach you around like the systems that you're being impacted by in your career and like the unlearning that you're going to have to do in order to move to where you want to be. I'm going to teach you about like experience flipping, what I gave you the groundwork for today. And then I'm also going to be teaching you around how to identify your next step, how to get clarity on that using my proven 3 Ps framework, how to build your confidence while you're in your current job before you're officially ready to move. And so tickets are on sale. Also with that, you get a free 15-minute career alignment check call with me on Zoom, and it's me and you one-on-one, and it's me listening to what your ideas are to implement what you learned over after the 5 days of the webinar series. So it's a win across the board, right? But there's a lot of things that you have to do before you're technically ready to start hitting apply. And so this is that whole strategic career planning piece I was talking about earlier, where yeah, you could just jump out in the water. But if you want to get the job that you really, really want, if you want to move into an aligned space in your career and have more intentionality in your career, there are a lot of things that you need to do in advance before hitting apply on the application. And so in the Prep Academy, I'm going to be breaking that down for the first time publicly. I do that behind the wall with my paid coaching clients. But I'm like, I need to just get y'all ready where you are right now, right? There's a lot of stuff you need to do before you start talking about a resume, before you start hitting apply on these jobs. And so you're not like a fish out of water when it comes time to compete against these other degree holders. I was talking to one of my coaching clients today during office hours around like the jobs that she's going for and the fact that she's competing against people who have degrees, MBA degrees from Yale. And I was telling her, and like her like confidence come up for everybody, like her like hesitancy, like her fear around, am I able to compete? And I just got a social work degree. And I'm like, yeah, you can compete because you are the unicorn. I said, yeah, those people's degrees are great, but the one thing that you have that they don't have is you have actual experience with the people. They have classroom theory and education. You have hands-on experience with the actual people. How do I know that to be true? Because my last macro job, that was the first thing that my executive director said to me in my interview. He was like, Marthea, there's a lot of smart people that work here. And I work with one of the oldest think tanks in Washington, D.C. He said, Marthea, there's a lot of smart people here. However, one thing that they don't have is they don't have actual hands-on experience working with the people in the actual community, and you do. I didn't understand the magnitude of what he was telling me then until I started the job, and I realized like I'm working with people with Juris Doctorate degrees, people with policy degrees, people with international law and affairs degrees. But what they did not have, they had a lot of passion. We all had passion. I love the people that I worked with. However, I was the one who had experience with the actual people. And my colleagues would even say that. They were like, well, tell us about such and such. Marthea, you are really phenomenal because you've worked in the system with the people, right? So I had more than just textbook knowledge. And so that's same for you all. And this is why I always say that you all truly are the unicorns, but you don't think that the work you're doing is a big deal. And I need y'all to start doing that. So I need you to start doing these 3 things. If you just got here, I need you to go back and replay it. I need you to register 2 nights for the Micro to Macro Prep Academy so I can teach you the other things that you need to be strategically doing now in your case management job to get the job that you want. True, it basically creates a good version of tunnel vision. It does. Knowing where you're going. Knowing where you're going. I listen to your podcast on my way to work. I love it. Okay. It's sometimes too easy to apply for any job we qualify for instead of being hyper-focused on what we really want to do. It sure is. It sure is. And when you get very clear about what the goal is, you don't settle for anything. That's one of the conversations I had recently with my alum of the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator around, like, even my current coaching clients. They're like, they come to the Sunday calls and they're like, I turned down a job offer, or I saw a job that I would normally apply for and I didn't apply for. I was like, doesn't it feel good? They're like, it does, because normally I would take that, but now I look at it, I'm like, no, I don't want to do that, or no, that's not in alignment with my goals. And they are able to do that because they know how to get jobs. And I always tell them, like, once you know how to get a job, you stop settling for just nonsense. You stop settling, period. You only go after the jobs that you really, really want. So the Micro to Macro Prep Academy, I'm going to really be taking you through each day a specific area of focus that you need to be doing now in your case management job, right? A lot of people are waiting until they are ready, until they are perfect. And there's no such thing. You're already ready. You're already perfect. However, there are some preliminary things that you need to be doing now to better position you to compete in the job market. And none of it includes going back to school. None of it includes whatever the social workers tell you out there. None of it includes volunteering. None of it includes running for office. None of it includes getting a leadership job. Okay, hey social worker, trainee from India. I love to look at India in the building. And from Ohio, welcome. It sounds like having professional standards similar to dating standards. So I'm here for it. Yes, Brown. Cause you gotta know what are your non-negotiables? What are you willing to deal with? What aren't you willing to deal with? I love that. Professional standards. I'm gonna borrow that. It's very much like dating standards. Once you deal with somebody, you're like, I don't want to do that again. Don't sign me up, right? But if you don't know how to effectively navigate your career, you're going to have to go back over there and date that person again, even though you said, I would never, right? So I love that, professional standards. So the tickets are only $29. I hope you come to the 5-day Micro to Macro Prep Academy. I have been planning nonstop behind the scenes. It's going to be good. People are already buying their tickets. But again, remember, before you actually hit apply, there are some things that you need to be doing. And the first is that you need to understand fully what makes your work valuable that you're currently doing. And I shared 3 reasons why you think your work isn't a big deal. And I even gave you a lot of strategies on how to figure it all out. All right, y'all. Happy Macro Career Planning. The link to register is in the bio for the Prep Academy. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.